Hello everyone, and welcome back to our Introduction to Economics course. In the previous lesson, we explored the Production Possibilities Curve, or PPC, and its connection to the national economy. Today, we will move on to another important and interesting topic, comparative advantage fundamentals. We will begin by examining the difference between absolute advantage and comparative advantage. Next, we will learn how to use opportunity cost to identify comparative advantage. We will then discuss why specialization is based on comparative advantage rather than absolute advantage alone. Finally, we will explore how specialization and voluntary trade can create gains for everyone involved. So, if you are ready, let's get started. Imagine two countries. One country is more productive at making both food and computers. At first, you might think the more productive country has no reason to trade with the other one. But economics gives us a surprising answer. Even when one country is better at producing everything, both countries can still benefit from specialization and trade. The key idea is not simply who can produce more. The key is who gives up less when producing each good. That is the foundation of comparative advantage. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain absolute advantage, explain comparative advantage, use opportunity cost to identify who should specialize in each good, and describe how trade can create gains for both sides. These ideas help explain why individuals, businesses, and countries often focus on different activities and exchange with one another instead of trying to produce everything by themselves. In our earlier lessons, we learned that scarcity forces choices and that every choice has an opportunity cost. We also used the production possibilities curve to show trade-offs between two goods. Comparative advantage builds directly on those ideas. To decide who should produce what, we compare opportunity costs. The person or country with the lower opportunity cost has the comparative advantage in that activity. Before we look at countries, think about a simple team project. Suppose one student is very good at both writing and designing slides. Another student is slower at both tasks. Does that mean the first student should do everything? Not necessarily. The team may work better if each student focuses on the task with the lower opportunity cost. The faster student may specialize in the task where the difference is greatest, while the other student handles the task that costs them relatively less to complete. Let us begin with absolute advantage. A person, business, or country has an absolute advantage when it can produce more of a good with the same resources or produce the same amount using fewer resources. Absolute advantage is about productivity. It asks a straightforward question: who can produce more output? If one worker can make 10 chairs in a day while another can make 6, the first worker has the absolute advantage in chair production. Suppose country A can produce a maximum of 12 tons of wheat or 6 computers. Country B can produce a maximum of 8 tons of wheat or 2 computers. Country A can produce more wheat and more computers than country B. Therefore, country A has an absolute advantage in both goods. But this information alone does not tell us how the two countries should specialize. For that, we need comparative advantage. Absolute advantage tells us who is more productive, but it does not tell us the relative cost of producing one good instead of another. A country may be highly productive in both goods, yet it may still benefit by focusing on the good that it can produce at a lower opportunity cost. This is why comparative advantage is more important than absolute advantage when we study specialization and trade. Comparative advantage means the ability to produce a good or service at a lower opportunity cost than another producer. Notice the phrase lower opportunity cost. Comparative advantage does not ask who is strongest, fastest, or most productive overall. It asks who sacrifices less of the alternative good. This is the central idea that explains why specialization can be beneficial even when one side has an absolute advantage in everything. To find comparative advantage, we calculate how much of one good must be given up to produce one more unit of the other good. We then compare those opportunity costs. The producer with the lower opportunity cost in a good has the comparative advantage in that good. Because opportunity costs are relative, comparative advantage is always based on comparison between producers. Let us return to our two-country example. Country A can produce 12 tons of wheat or 6 computers. Country B can produce 8 tons of wheat or 2 computers. Assume that resources and technology are fixed and that each country can move resources between wheat and computer production. We will use these maximum production numbers to calculate the opportunity cost of each good. Country A can produce 12 tons of wheat or 6 computers. If it moves from producing only wheat to producing only computers, it gives up 12 tons of wheat to gain 6 computers. 12 divided by 6 equals 2. Therefore, the opportunity cost of one computer in country A is 2 tons of wheat. We can also calculate the cost in the opposite direction. Country A gives up 6 computers to gain 12 tons of wheat. 6 divided by 12 equals 1/2. Therefore, the opportunity cost of 1 ton of wheat in country A is 1/2 of a computer. These two opportunity costs are reciprocal values because we are looking at the same trade-off in opposite directions. Now consider country B. It can produce 8 tons of wheat or 2 computers. To gain 2 computers, it must give up 8 tons of wheat. 8 divided by 2 equals 4. Therefore, the opportunity cost of one computer in country B is 4 tons of wheat. In the other direction, country B gives up 2 computers to gain 8 tons of wheat. 2 divided by 8 equals 1/4. Therefore, the opportunity cost of 1 ton of wheat in country B is 1/4 of a computer. Now we compare the opportunity costs. One computer costs 2 tons of wheat in country A, but 4 tons of wheat in country B. Country A has the lower opportunity cost of producing computers, so country A has the comparative advantage in computers. 1 ton of wheat costs 1/2 of a computer in country A, but only 1/4 of a computer in country B. Country B has the comparative advantage in wheat. This result may seem surprising because country A has the absolute advantage in both goods, yet country B still has a comparative advantage in wheat. Country B is less productive overall, but it gives up fewer computers when it produces wheat. This shows why comparative advantage is based on relative cost, not overall strength. A producer can have an absolute advantage in everything, but it cannot have a comparative advantage in everything when there are only 2 producers and 2 goods. Specialization means focusing resources on producing the good or service for which a producer has a comparative advantage. In our example, country A should focus more on computers, while country B should focus more on wheat. Specialization does not always mean producing only one good. It can mean shifting more resources toward the activity with the lower opportunity cost. Specialization can increase total output because resources are used where they have the lowest opportunity cost. Instead of asking each country to divide its resources in the same way, specialization allows each country to focus more on what it does relatively well. This can create a larger total amount of goods available for the 2 countries together. Suppose that before specialization, country A produces 3 computers and 6 tons of wheat. Country B produces 1 computer and 4 tons of wheat. Together, the 2 countries produce 4 computers, and 10 tons of wheat. These production combinations are possible based on their opportunity costs, but the countries have not yet fully used comparative advantage. Now suppose country A shifts more resources toward computers and produces 4 computers and 4 tons of wheat. Country B specializes completely in wheat and produces 8 tons of wheat and no computers. The combined total is now 4 computers and 12 tons of wheat. The two countries produce the same number of computers as before, but 2 additional tons of wheat. The increase in total output is the first gain from specialization. By shifting production toward comparative advantage, the countries have created more goods with the same overall resources. But specialization by itself is not enough. Country B now has no computers, and country A may want more wheat. Trade allows them to exchange part of their specialized output and share the gains. Gains from trade occur when voluntary exchange allows both sides to obtain a more desirable combination of goods than they could obtain without specialization and trade. For trade to benefit both countries, the exchange must fall between their opportunity costs. Country A gives up 2 tons of wheat to make 1 computer. Country B would have to give up 4 tons of wheat to make 1 computer. Therefore, a trade of 1 computer for 3 tons of wheat can benefit both countries. After specialization, country A has 4 computers and 4 tons of wheat. Country B has 8 tons of wheat and no computers. Suppose country A gives 1 computer to country B in exchange for 3 tons of wheat. After the trade, country A has 3 computers and 7 tons of wheat. Country B has 1 computer and 5 tons of wheat. Before specialization and trade, country A had 3 computers and 6 tons of wheat. After specialization and trade, it has 3 computers and 7 tons of wheat. It has the same number of computers, but 1 additional ton of wheat. Country A is better off because it can consume more wheat without giving up any computers compared with its original position. Before specialization and trade, country B had 1 computer and 4 tons of wheat. After specialization and trade, it has 1 computer and 5 tons of wheat. Country B also keeps the same number of computers and gains 1 additional ton of wheat. Both countries are better off because specialization increased total production and trade allowed them to share the extra output. Trade does not create new physical resources by itself. The gains come from using existing resources more efficiently through specialization. Each country avoids producing the good that has the higher opportunity cost and obtains some of that good through exchange instead. The result is a larger combined output and more consumption possibilities. This same logic can apply to individuals, businesses, regions, and countries. Our example is deliberately simple. Real trade involves transportation costs, changing technology, many goods, government policies, adjustment costs, and concerns about how gains are distributed. Some workers and industries may face difficult transitions when specialization changes production. The comparative advantage model does not answer every policy question, but it gives us a powerful starting point for understanding why specialization and trade can create benefits. Let us review several common mistakes. First, do not confuse absolute advantage with comparative advantage. Absolute advantage is about producing more. Comparative advantage is about lower opportunity cost. Second, do not assign comparative advantage by looking only at total output. Calculate the opportunity cost. Third, remember that specialization should follow comparative advantage, not simply absolute advantage. Let us summarize. Absolute advantage means producing more with the same resources. Comparative advantage means producing at a lower opportunity cost. Comparative advantage determines the pattern of specialization. When producers specialize according to comparative advantage, total output can increase. Voluntary trade can then allow both sides to share the gains and consume more than before. The main lesson is that differences in opportunity cost create opportunities for mutually beneficial specialization and trade. Thank you very much for joining me in Lesson 6 on the Comparative Advantage Fundamentals. Before we finish this video lesson, stay with me for a quiz challenge in the next section to test your understanding of absolute advantage, comparative advantage, specialization, and gains from trade. Question number 1. Country A can produce 12 tons of wheat or 6 computers. Country B can produce 8 tons of wheat or 2 computers. Which statement about absolute advantage is correct? A. Country B has an absolute advantage in wheat only. B. Country A has an absolute advantage in both goods. C. Country B has an absolute advantage in both goods. D. Neither country has an absolute advantage. The correct answer is B. Country A has an absolute advantage in both goods. Absolute advantage asks which country can produce the larger quantity using the same resources. In this case, country A can produce more wheat and more computers than country B. Absolute advantage is based on total productivity, not opportunity cost. Question number 2. The opportunity cost of one computer is 2 tons of wheat in country A and 4 tons of wheat in country B. Which country has the comparative advantage in computers? A. Country A. B. Country B. C. Both countries. D. Neither country. If you said country A, you are absolutely correct. Comparative advantage belongs to the producer with the lower opportunity cost. Country A gives up only 2 tons of wheat to produce 1 computer, while country B gives up 4 tons. Therefore, country A has the comparative advantage in computers. Question number 3. Which trade rate could benefit both countries if one computer costs 2 tons of wheat in country A and 4 tons of wheat in country B? A. 1 computer for 1 ton of wheat. B. 1 computer for 2 tons of wheat. C. 1 computer for 3 tons of wheat. D. 1 computer for 5 tons of wheat. The correct answer is C. 1 computer for 3 tons of wheat. A mutually beneficial trade rate must fall between the two countries' opportunity costs. 3 tons of wheat falls between country A's cost of 2 tons and country B's cost of 4 tons. This trade rate can therefore benefit both countries. Moving on to fill in the blank questions. Question number 4. A producer has an absolute advantage when it can produce what? Output with the same resources. Here's your hint. Absolute advantage focuses on productivity and total quantity produced. If you said more, you are absolutely correct. Absolute advantage means producing more output with the same resources or producing the same output with fewer resources. Moving on to question number 5. Comparative advantage means producing a good at a lower what cost than another producer. Here's your hint. Think about what must be sacrificed to produce something else. If you said opportunity, you are absolutely correct. Comparative advantage is determined by lower opportunity cost, not simply by higher total production. Question number 6. Focusing resources on the good for which a producer has a comparative advantage is called What? Here's your hint. This means concentrating more production on the activity with the lower opportunity cost. If you said specialization, you are absolutely correct. Specialization means focusing resources on the good or service that a producer can make at a lower opportunity cost. Moving on to short answer questions. Question number 7. Explain the difference between absolute advantage and comparative advantage. Here's your hint. One concept asks who produces more. The other asks who gives up less. Here's a sample answer. Absolute advantage means that a producer can make more of a good with the same resources than another producer. Comparative advantage means that a producer can make a good at a lower opportunity cost. Absolute advantage is based on productivity, while comparative advantage is based on the value of what must be given up. Question number 8. Use the following information to identify comparative advantage. Country A, 12 tons of wheat or 6 computers. Country B, 8 tons of wheat or 2 computers. Which country has the comparative advantage in computers? And which country has the comparative advantage in wheat? Show the opportunity costs. Here's your hint. Calculate what each country gives up to produce 1 computer and 1 ton of wheat. Here's a sample answer. For country A, the opportunity cost of 1 computer is 12 tons of wheat divided by 6 computers equals 2 tons of wheat per computer. For country B, the opportunity cost of 1 computer is 8 tons of wheat divided by 2 computers equals 4 tons of wheat per computer. Country A has the comparative advantage in computers because it has the lower opportunity cost. For country A, the opportunity cost of 1 ton of wheat is 6 computers divided by 12 tons of wheat equals 0.5 computer per ton of wheat. For country B, the opportunity cost of 1 ton of wheat is 2 computers divided by 8 tons of wheat equals 0.25 computer per ton of wheat. Country B has the comparative advantage in wheat because it has the lower opportunity. Moving on to the final question. Question number 9. Explain how specialization and trade can make both countries better off. And here is your hint. Think about what happens to total production when each country focuses on the good with the lower opportunity cost. Here's a sample answer. When countries specialize according to comparative advantage, they use their resources more efficiently. In the lesson example, country A focuses more on computers, while country B focuses more on wheat. This increases their combined output. Through voluntary trade at a rate between their opportunity costs, both countries can obtain a more desirable combination of computers and wheat than they had before specialization and trade. Great job! You made it to the end of today's lesson on comparative advantage fundamentals and completed the quiz challenge. Thanks for watching today's lesson. Until next time, take care.